Hey everyone, and a massive warm welcome to the channel. Seriously, thank you so much for hitting play and joining us today. Before we dive into one of history's greatest puzzles, I genuinely hope you're feeling great, full of energy, health, and happiness. Sending all the good vibes your way, and wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the absolute best. Now, get ready for a mystery that'll blow your mind. Imagine discovering a lost superpower, a civilization so vast, so advanced, and so well organized, it dwarfed ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined at its peak, and then, poof, it vanished without a trace. No grand battles recorded, no epic tales of collapse, just eerie silence. For over 3,500 years, its very existence was completely forgotten, buried under the dust of time. That's the mind-bending reality of the Indus Valley Civilization. We're talking about a society that built some of the world's first planned cities with indoor plumbing and garbage chutes over 4,000 years ago, mastered trade across oceans, and created a writing system we still can't read today. Who were these people? How did they build such incredible cities without kings or obvious temples? And why did one of the largest, most sophisticated societies on Earth just disappear? Buckle up, because we're journeying back over 5,000 years to unravel the secrets of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, and explore a forgotten world that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient history. Picture this, it's the 1820s, and British engineers are busy building a railway line through what's now Pakistan. They need ballast, heavy stones to lay under the tracks for stability. Locals point them towards a massive mound of ancient bricks near a village called Harappa. The engineers think it's perfect, tons of ready-made bricks just sitting there. They start digging them up, crushing them, and laying them down for miles of railway. They had no idea they were literally pulverizing the ruins of an ancient metropolis. Fast forward to the 1920s. Archaeologists finally start paying attention to these strange mounds. When they dig at Harappa, and then at another site hundreds of miles away called Mohenjo-Daro, they are stunned. They aren't uncovering small villages, they're finding the remains of enormous, meticulously planned cities that were ancient even when the pyramids were being built in Egypt. This wasn't just a local culture. It was a full-blown, massive civilization spread across a huge chunk of modern-day Pakistan and northwest India, over 1 million square kilometers, bigger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia put together. They named it the Indus Valley Civilization after the mighty Indus River, the lifeblood of the region. The discovery rewrote history books. Here was proof of a sophisticated, urban society flourishing in South Asia centuries before anyone imagined possible, completely lost to memory until those railway workers started digging. Step into one of their cities, like Mohenjo-Daro, around 2500 BC. Forget winding medieval alleys or haphazard ancient towns. This place was planned. Imagine a grid system, wide, straight main streets running north-south and east-west, dividing the city into neat blocks. Smaller lanes branched off, leading to individual houses. It feels almost modern. The builders used standardized, kiln-fired bricks, all the same size and ratio, like 4:2:1. Think about that. Across hundreds of miles and dozens of cities, they used the same brick dimensions. That speaks of incredible organization and central planning, maybe even a shared rulebook. Now, look down. See those channels running along the streets? That's part of one of their most jaw-dropping achievements, a world-class drainage system. Almost every single house had its own private bathroom, often on the ground floor, with a sloped floor leading to a drain pipe. These pipes connected to covered drains running under the main streets, which then fed into larger sewers. They even had manholes for maintenance. This wasn't just for show, it was public health on a massive scale, unmatched anywhere else in the ancient world. They also had clever garbage collection systems with bins placed at street corners. Cleanliness and order weren't afterthoughts, they were built into the very fabric of the city from the start. Walking down a street in Mohenjo-Daro at its peak wouldn't have felt chaotic. It would have felt orderly, functional, and remarkably advanced. Now, let's peek inside a typical Indus house. Forget mud huts. Many houses were spacious two-story structures made of those sturdy, uniform bricks. You'd enter from a side lane into a central courtyard, the heart of the home, letting in light and air. Rooms opened off this courtyard. Some houses were quite large, suggesting different levels of wealth or status, but there's no evidence of gigantic palaces that scream pharaoh or emperor. Upstairs were likely the bedrooms. Downstairs, you'd often find that crucial bathroom, sometimes even with a clever system to pour water for a kind of shower. Kitchens had hearths for cooking. Many houses had private wells, ensuring a clean water supply. But here's a fascinating puzzle: what did they do? What were their jobs? We know they were incredible craftspeople. Archaeologists have found beautiful pottery, often well-made and decorated with geometric patterns or simple animals. They worked with metals, crafting copper and bronze tools, vessels, and even intricate jewelry. They were masters of bead-making, using materials like carnelian, a beautiful red stone, steatite, soapstone, shell, and even gold. They'd drill incredibly fine holes through tiny, hard stones, a skill requiring immense patience and technology. They wove cotton. Some of the earliest evidence of cotton cloth in the world comes from here. They also made terracotta toys, little carts with movable wheels, whistles shaped like birds, and figurines. This speaks of a society with enough stability and resources that people could specialize, creating beautiful and functional objects beyond basic survival needs. One of the biggest head-scratchers about the Indus people is their leadership. Who was in charge? In Egypt, you had god-kings in pyramids. In Mesopotamia, you had warrior kings and towering ziggurats dedicated to gods. In the Indus Valley, it's eerily quiet on that front. There are no obvious, massive palaces bursting with riches. There are no giant temples dominating the skyline. Mohenjo-Daro has a large, elevated complex dubbed the Citadel, and Harappa has something similar. These might have been administrative or ritual centers. The most famous structure in Mohenjo-Daro is the Great Bath. It's a large, waterproofed pool made with precise brickwork and bitumen, a natural tar, surrounded by rooms and a colonnade. It likely had a religious or ritual purpose, maybe for purification ceremonies. But it's not attached to a huge temple complex. There's no clear evidence of a single, powerful ruler like a pharaoh. There are no grand statues of kings or gods. So, how did they manage it? How did they coordinate building massive, standardized cities across a vast area, maintain complex infrastructure, and engage in large-scale trade without leaving clear signs of kings, emperors, or a powerful priestly class demanding monuments? Experts have theories. Maybe they were governed by groups of elite merchants or landowners. Maybe they had councils or some form of collective leadership. Perhaps their religion didn't focus on building massive temples to anthropomorphic gods. The lack of obvious central authority figures is one of the most distinctive and puzzling features of this civilization. It suggests a very different kind of social and political organization compared to its contemporaries. Then there's the script. The Indus people definitely wrote. We know this because they left behind thousands of inscriptions, mostly on small, square stone seals, about the size of a postage stamp, but also on pottery, copper plates, and tools. The seals are fascinating. They're usually made of steatite, carved with incredible skill, and often feature an animal: bulls, elephants, rhinos, buffalo, and especially a strange, one-horned creature often called the unicorn. Above the animal is a short line of symbols. That's the Indus script. And here's the frustrating part: despite decades of effort by brilliant linguists and computer scientists, no one has definitively deciphered it. We don't know what language it represents. We don't know if it's a true writing system encoding speech, like hieroglyphs or cuneiform, or more of a symbolic system. The inscriptions are very short. The longest has only about 26 symbols. This makes cracking the code incredibly difficult. Without longer texts like poems, laws, or royal decrees, it's like trying to understand a whole language from reading nothing but company logos or street signs. Was it a list of names and titles? Trade markings? Religious symbols? Until someone cracks the code, the voices of the Indus people remain silent. Their thoughts, their stories, their laws, their daily transactions, all locked away in those elegant, enigmatic symbols. This is perhaps the single biggest barrier to truly understanding their world. But we do know they were world-class traders. Those seals with the undeciphered script, they weren't just for show at home. Indus seals have been found thousands of miles away, in ancient Mesopotamia, modern Iraq. Mesopotamian records from cities like Ur even mention trading with a place called Meluha, which most experts believe was the Indus Valley region. So, what were they trading? The Indus people likely exported their beautiful carnelian beads, intricate shell jewelry, distinctive cotton cloth, exotic woods, and possibly precious stones like lapis lazuli, which they imported from Afghanistan. In return, they might have brought back metals like tin and copper, essential for making bronze, silver, gold, and maybe oils or textiles from Mesopotamia. They didn't just trade overland. They built sturdy boats and sailed along the coast and across the Arabian Sea. A fascinating site called Lot Hal, on the Gujarat coast of India, had a massive, man-made brick dockyard connected to the river, clear evidence of seafaring trade. They had standardized weights made of stone, cubes of chert, following a precise system, which was essential for fair trade across such vast distances. Finding Indus goods in Mesopotamia, and Mesopotamian goods, like cylinder seals, in Indus cities, proves they were plugged into a vast international network. This wasn't an isolated culture, it was a major player in the Bronze Age world economy, connecting the Indian subcontinent to the heart of the Middle East. Life in the Indus Valley wasn't all about bricks, drains, and trade, of course. We get glimpses of their world through the small things they left behind. The figurines are intriguing. We find lots of small, terracotta statues of women, often heavily decorated with jewelry, headbands, necklaces, elaborate hairstyles. Some archaeologists call them mother goddess figures, suggesting a focus on fertility or female deities, but we can't be sure. There are also figures of men, sometimes interpreted as priests or gods, but again, it's speculative. Then there are the toys, little carts pulled by oxen or buffalo, tiny spinning tops, whistles shaped like birds. Kids played. Animals were clearly important, not just for food and work, but perhaps symbolically. The bull, especially the powerful humped zebu bull, features prominently on seals. The mysterious unicorn is everywhere. Elephants and rhinos appear too, showing the diverse wildlife they knew. What about religion? It's incredibly hard to say without texts or obvious temples. The Great Bath likely had ritual significance. Some seals show figures in poses that might be yogic or meditative. One famous seal shows a horned figure sitting cross-legged, surrounded by animals, nicknamed the Pashupati seal, like an early Shiva. Fire altars have been found at some sites like Kalibangan. They probably practiced some form of ancestor veneration. But piecing together their spiritual beliefs without written records is like assembling a jigsaw puzzle with most of the pieces missing. We see hints and symbols, but the full picture of their inner world remains elusive. For centuries, roughly from 2600 BC to 1900 BC, the Indus civilization thrived. This period is called the mature Harappan phase. Cities like Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, Dhalavira, Rakhigarhi, and Ganharawala were bustling centers. Trade flowed. People lived in well-planned comfort. And then, things started to change. Around 1900 BC, a slow decline began. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic collapse like an invasion might cause. It was more like a fading away over a couple of centuries. What happened? This is another major mystery, and climate scientists and archaeologists have been piecing together clues. One of the strongest theories points to climate change. Studies of ancient riverbeds, sediments, and even plankton fossils suggest a major shift. The mighty Gagarhakra river system, which once flowed parallel to the Indus and watered a huge chunk of the civilization's heartland, began to dry up. This river, sometimes linked to the mythical Sarasvati River mentioned in ancient Indian texts, was crucial. Its decline was likely caused by changes in monsoon patterns, less rain falling in the right places. The Indus River itself might have become more unpredictable, flooding violently or shifting its course. Imagine your main water source vanishing or becoming unreliable. Crops fail. Pastureland dries up. People can't grow enough food. Trade routes are disrupted. Slowly, cities become harder to sustain. People start abandoning the large urban centers. They likely moved east and south, towards the Ganges River basin where rainfall was more reliable, or to smaller villages near remaining water sources. There might have been other factors too. Maybe overuse of the land made it less productive, or trade disruptions with Mesopotamia, which was also facing turmoil, hurt their economy. Some older theories suggested invading Aryans caused the collapse, but there's very little archaeological evidence to support a violent takeover. The picture that emerges is less dramatic but perhaps more profound. A sophisticated civilization gradually undone by a changing climate that it couldn't adapt to quickly enough. The great cities weren't destroyed, they were slowly, sadly, emptied out. After the cities were abandoned, they didn't vanish instantly. A late Harappan phase continued for a few centuries, but it was a shadow of the former glory. People lived in smaller villages, using simpler pottery styles. The grand urban planning, the standardized bricks, the intricate seals with their script, these faded away. The knowledge of writing seems to have been lost entirely. Later cultures rose in the region, the people of the Vedas, eventually leading to the great empires of ancient India. But for over 3,500 years, the memory of the vast civilization that preceded them was completely forgotten. Its cities were buried under layers of silt and soil, becoming mere mounds in the landscape, sometimes mined for bricks by later generations who had no idea what they were digging up. It wasn't until the 1920s, as archaeologists systematically excavated Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, that the true scale and sophistication of this lost world began to emerge. It was like discovering a hidden chapter in human history. This rediscovery forced historians to completely rethink the origins of civilization in South Asia. It showed that complex urban life wasn't something imported later, it was homegrown, ancient, and incredibly advanced. The Indus Valley Civilization leaves us with profound questions and a deep sense of wonder. How did they achieve such remarkable urban planning and social organization without the clear hierarchies we see elsewhere? What incredible stories and knowledge are locked away in their undeciphered script? How did they manage resources and trade so effectively across such a vast territory? And what lessons does their eventual decline, potentially linked to environmental shifts, hold for us today? While we may never have all the answers, each new excavation and scientific analysis brings us a little closer. Sites like Rakhigarhi in India, one of the largest and still being explored, continue to yield surprises. DNA studies of ancient skeletons are starting to shed light on the people themselves, their origins, their health, and how they relate to modern populations in South Asia. Archaeologists are meticulously studying plant remains, animal bones, and soil samples to reconstruct their environment and diet in incredible detail. The mystery is far from solved. The Indus Valley Civilization remains one of archaeology's greatest enigmas, a testament to human ingenuity in building a complex, peaceful, and ordered society, and a sobering reminder of the fragility of even the greatest civilizations in the face of a changing world. It forces us to look beyond the familiar narratives of pharaohs and emperors and appreciate the quiet, sophisticated brilliance of a people who mastered urban living millennia ago, whose voices are silent, but whose achievements still echo silently from beneath the earth. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the deep past. The story of the Indus Valley is truly unforgettable.